Good morning, everybody. This is the April 2nd, 2026 meeting of the Governor's Commission on Lead Poisoning Prevention, or the Maryland Lead Poisoning Prevention Commission. I'm so glad we have great friends here in the House. We will get by, but Fred Banks is on vacation today. So I think we'll manage because we have the lovely Kevin standing in along with support from Paula Montgomery. So if we could, I just want to make sure that folks know that this is National Healthy Homes Month. There is a series of activities that are happening with organizations here and around the country. And not only is it National Healthy Homes Month, so I will ask all of us as commissioners to share in the chat anything that you may be doing for National Healthy Homes Month. And if you currently don't have something on your agenda, please let us and folks like the City of Baltimore Health Department or others in DE know. We'll give you inspiration for that. But I think it is really super important in this year to know that we've got a number of lead challenges still, and that we need to commit to end this toxic legacy of lead poisoning. It is also National Public Health Week, I believe, right, Dr. Mitchell? Is it National Public Health Week or month?
Well, I feel as though we deserve a month, but I think it's only a week.
Yeah, there you go. Well, public health does deserve a 12-month of that. And I will ask our friends who are here from Baltimore City Health Department today if there's activities happening around either of these as well as the state to call those out. I do want to absolutely point out a couple of things. MDE did release the draft commission report. We circulated that draft commission report. A number of commissioners made emendations to the report. I believe all of them were adopted. And that final draft is on its way to the secretary. Oh, Fred, I said you're on vacation. Now you're making me a liar. Go on vacation. Welcome, Fred. But I believe the commission report is on its way to the secretary and will soon be released to the commission and the governor, unless, Fred, it has been approved. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. It's been approved. It should be on its way.
Okay, so it will be distributed to commissioners who may now share it with others. The state will also share it as it sees fit. So to be clear, that process is for the state to provide that report to us, for us to comment on it and do that. We will work together and hope that we can get that done a little earlier in the year, so that we're closer to January than March. But I do know that with the state legislative session and a number of things, right? It got a little bit behind there. Before we go any further, I would ask that we're going to introduce the folks in the room, identify if you're a commissioner or not, and then we will move to introductions online for commissioners, please. Kevin, I'm not sure how many people know you, so you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Kevin Stanley, Maryland Department of the Environment, Lead Poisoning Prevention, and I work in compliance and enforcement.
People coming. I'm Allie Nestad. I'm a commission member, parent, advocate.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Brooks, owner and the nutritionist of Fertile Foundation Integrated Nutrition. Good morning, everyone. Jennifer Martin. I am Assistant Commissioner for the Bureau of Health Promotion and Education at the Baltimore City Health Department.
Good morning. I'm Brianna Adams, Director of the Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program at the Baltimore City Health Department.
And part of what you wanted to do today was introduce Jennifer. You're over the Bureau of Lead Poisoning.
Yeah, so over our Bureau of Health Promotion and Education, which includes the Childhood Lead Prevention Poisoning Program. And I know many of you will have known Camille. So Camille was in this position previously, but she has moved into another position at the health department. So
Fantastic. And have been at the health department or?
I have been at the Baltimore City Health Department for 16 years.
Wow.
And had a number of positions over that time. So
We're glad to welcome you. I'm Ruth Ann Norton of the Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, serve currently as the chair. Wendy's, can we move to the other commissioners online, please?
Yes, Barbara Moore.
Hi, I'm Barbara Moore. I'm the pediatric nurse practitioner and director of the lead poisoning program at Mount Washington Pediatric Hospital, commission member.
Christina Push.
Christina Push, Executive Director of the Maryland State Child Care Association and co-chair of the Office of Child Care Advisory Council. Good morning.
Cliff Mitchell.
Clifford Mitchell, Maryland Department of Health, and let me just say, Ruth Ann, I put Jennifer Martin in the same pantheon of public health heroes in Baltimore City Health Department as Olivia Farrow, Camille Burke, Mary Beth Holler. We're in very good hands with who's there.
Okay, any other commissioners? You see Christina and Michael.
Fred Banks.
Fred Banks.
How you doing? Fred Banks, program manager for the lead poison prevention program at the
Mangela Paul.
Sounds like he's not feeling good.
Good morning. I'm Angela Paul from Division of Early Childhood, Maryland State Department of Education, Commission member. Thank you.
Michael Ikniowski.
Morning, everyone. I'm Mike Ikniowski. I'm the representative of the Maryland chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Hey, Michael, is AAP doing anything for either Healthy Homes Month or Public Health Week that you're aware of that we should tune into? Or
I'm not aware of anything at the moment, but I'll check with the leadership to see if they have any plans.
Others?
Nadia Hutchison.
Nadia Hutchinson, member of Baltimore Renters United.
Susan Kleinhammer.
Good morning, Sue Kleinhammer, Lead Tech Services, accredited risk assessor, commission member. Good morning.
Is there any other commission members that did not get their name called?
We have two commission members with an excused absences. It is Passover today. We want to wish everyone best wishes for Passover to celebrate, but Adam Skolnick and Jacob Benzequin are out today. And also want to wish everyone who celebrates Easter and other holidays this month the best. All right, we have the commission report should be distributed very soon. Paula, Kevin, Fred, I'll ask Wendy, make sure that if it has been, Fred reports that it has been approved by the secretary, if we could get a final copy and a copy of the letter that went to the governor. Submitting that would be quite helpful. As Adam is out today, I'm gonna, do we have others? Do we have Wes Stewart or Riley on the phone on legislation at this point?
Yes, I don't know if Fred wants to update on the MD's departmental bill, the performance bond and liability insurance that's passed both houses.
Fred?
Yeah, it's passed both the House and the Senate. I haven't heard any updates recently, but it looks like it's good to go.
So if folks are paying attention, it is being reheard again in the House, but only as a matter of course because it was cross-filed. I assume the governor's office will be able to get this signed. Fred, there will then be the regulatory process, and I know there's a lot of discussion on the line about how this will happen. Could you just take a moment to explain what happens after the governor signs this into law, please, so that folks know, since this has been a point of discussion?
So essentially the bill gave MDE the permission to put into regulations the responsibility for the lead inspectors, lead contractors to be insured. The next process will be to convene a group. I know we've had some volunteers from the commission that want to sit on the group to outline what those regulations will look like. So that'll be the next process of developing the regulations and then moving through that process of getting those approved.
Okay. And there will be public comment during that process as well?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, all right. And Wes, if you'd like to go with the other legislation?
Sure. The lead and baby food products, that bill is also moving forward. This revision there was that it took out the specific for infant formula. It does have infant cereal in the bill. It's continued to move forward, but that was the key revision that it made. Was it removed infant formula.
Effectively, what is the bill calling for to be done? I'm sure the health department might be up on this as well, but
the bill now adds infant cereal to the baby food testing regimen. So this is an enhancement of the bill from prior years that it passed. But again, it was struck on the infant formula. And so that's
Right.
the same revision.
I assume this is done by MDH? The testing?
It is done by the industry.
We're requiring the industry do it before it can be on sale in Maryland. Is that right?
That is correct. The industry has to, this is Clifford Mitchell, the industry has to make those results available on a public website.
So this bill does not ban the sale if it is, contains lead or other contaminant?
Wes, you can speak to that. It does have a provision for exceedances of the allowable limits.
Right. And also reporting public information, mandatory reporting.
Right. It does prohibit sale of formula whose limits exceed FDA limits.
Okay. Riley, you have your hand up?
Yes, apologies, but yes, specifically for this bill, it was, to my understanding, drafted so that it would, because opponents in the industry have typically raised that it's impossible to get absolutely all of the trace amounts of lead out of these kind of products. The purpose of the bill is to provide that testing, like the testing results, and specifically available as a QR code that would be available to scan by parents on the products as they're shopping. So that would be the main purpose of the bill, as I understand it.
Can we just, hold for 1 second? I think we're fine here, folks.
You think you're okay?
Yeah, I think we're fine. Can we all hear? Okay, I think we're fine. Yeah, that helped a lot. Okay. Thank you.
Good now. Sorry for the disruption, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you both.
Barbara
Yeah.
Moore has her hand up as well.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay, I just had a question. When you were saying it's removing infant formula, did you mean the word infant? So it would look at all formulas, or it's actually taking away infant formula from this and just going with infant cereal?
It is removing infant formula from the actual bill, and they've been doing that in multiple states. So the industry is specifically targeting that infant formula distinction, and they've been able to do that in several states as well. Their lobbyist is very active, and appears to be successful in Maryland as well. So it's removing that from the mandatory reporting and so I know it's counterintuitive, as many would say, but
I can also provide a little bit of context on that. So I spoke with the House sponsor, and basically, while they're removing infant formula for this legislative session, as Wes said, primarily as a result of the opposition from the industry lobbyists, they are planning to reintroduce a bill for next session to then recapture infant formula. So basically, this year they just weren't prepared for that opposition, but they are planning on trying to reintroduce legislation next year to be able to get that then.
Okay, and the opposition was I guess the manufacturers? Do we know?
Yeah, it's the Infant Nutrition Council of America. It's a trade organization that claims to represent the major infant formula manufacturers.
All right. Other legislation, please?
Just one other source.
Any questions from anybody? Okay. I know the health department, Jennifer, for years has done an amazing job of testing jewelry and different things. And I don't know if you all are intending to do sample testing of these products or not. Love to, if you do, let us know as we think about the coming year for infant formula. Nadia, and then we need to move on to the next bill, but please, Nadia, Commissioner Hutchinson.
Yeah, just question for my own naivete. Why is there lead? Like, why is it that they can't remove all trace levels of lead in infant formula?
Dr. Mitchell, any thoughts on that?
So it's very complicated, but the materials that go into the manufacture of almost everything, but certainly food items, lead is so widely distributed in the biologic universe that we draw materials from, as well as traces being found in machinery, dust, etc., that because we have very, very, very good high resolution methods of detecting lead, we are now able to detect lead down to parts per trillion. It's very, very difficult to essentially remove every single lead atom from anything that is manufactured, no matter how well you attempt to control all those sources. So we can detect lead at levels that are so low that for all intents and purposes, even if you have a couple of atoms of lead, you may still be able to detect them.
So it may come from the machine parts, it may come from what is grown in the soil. And I will say the FDA runs a whole program on this. I'm not sure where it stands under the current administration, where they're often taking averages and creating averages as the baseline of, okay, it is concerning food. Lead in food was a major topic for the EPA Children's Health Protection Advisory Council, should remain so. The Environmental Defense Fund has probably done the best work on this. And I think more and more states are going to be burdened with a lot of things that the federal government may not be doing in the future. So, Michael, Dr. Chanowski.
Yeah, just to add a little bit to the conversation. The bill is also for arsenic, cadmium, and mercury in addition to lead. The plants can take up these minerals and these elements from the soil directly, so that where there's lead in the soil, the plant that's grown there will be contaminated with lead. If it's, say, apple tree from which applesauce is made, those apples will contain lead. And as Dr. Mitchell mentioned, the ability to detect lower and lower levels of lead in different products is constantly increasing. So the ability to detect small amounts of lead and other elements is important. I think that the biggest benefit of this bill for this year was adding infant cereal in regard to arsenic. Rice cereal has been found to be variably contaminated with arsenic depending on where it's grown at toxic levels, so that making sure that these cereals are tested for arsenic in addition to the other heavy metals is an important part of this bill.
And Ruth Ann, let me correct one thing that I said earlier. This particular version of the bill, I misspoke, does not contain a ban or provision to ban. It's a notification only. So in the event that a parent or someone else determines that there's a concern about elements, they can report it to the department, but this bill does not ban sale, importation, distribution for sale, or offering for sale based on lead content.
So we need to up our game on consumer education for certain. Fred or Paula, have we identified food sources as a primary causation for poisoning in the state in the last 2 to 3 years in any child?
Spices.
Spices.
Anything else, Kevin, that you guys?
Well, so there's the whole applesauce issue.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the cinnamon, it was the
Right.
cinnamon.
It was the cinnamon in the applesauce.
But
Yeah.
it's mainly been spices at this point.
Correct.
All right. So would really appreciate the department paying special attention to infant formula, which is going to be unregulated for the next year. And this issue of cereal, if it does have, although it sounds like arsenic, which is high in rice, is the issue there.
Yeah.
We will have next month, the panel at Rutgers and Hopkins who did the sort of groundbreaking work on the recent release in the last year of the study on unborn children and newborn children on mercury and lead. And I do believe, Dr. Mousy, they covered arsenic in the study as well. So it's really a profound study, and we'll have that presentation next month at the commission. Have any other questions? And if not, let's Wes or Riley, any remaining legislation not covered? We need to do that sort of efficiently here.
Yes, one of the bill, and then Riley can talk about the lead reduction. This was the lead and ammunition for hunting. This has been introduced several years by Senator Young, and now it's successful. This year, however, the House version, House Bill 1067, has passed the House. Delegate Guyton had sponsored that, and so that is currently in the Senate. That would phase out leaded ammunition for hunting purposes, not a complete ban, but at least for hunting. And so that has passed the House for the first time.
And is MDE the cognizant agency on this bill?
It's Department of Natural Resources.
Yeah. And then we have the two modified risk reduction in the single family unit. So can we just, Cliff, yes, go ahead.
I was just going to add, there has been an active collaboration between the Department of Natural Resources as well as the Department of Health and the Department of the Environment on this issue. Previously, we've actually developed educational material for people who do a lot of game hunting to let them know about this. This is information that's been supplied to people who apply for licenses to DNR to let them know about the hazards of lead in shot, particularly when consuming not just deer, but other materials as well.
Cliff, can I ask this question? I hate to be provocative here, but we have too many young kids who get shot in altercations or otherwise. Are they monitored for lead?
Yeah,
Shrapnel will stay in, that will not be removed by doctors, and the risk of that on lead poisoning is this a thing that is covered by the health system?
So this is a thing. We do have a significant number, and I won't say how many because I don't actually know, and I'm not sure anybody knows, of people who have retained bullet fragments who, and I'm aware of individual cases because I've had them clinically, and I'm sure Dr. Igniowski is aware as well. There is no registry. These tend to be monitored individually by clinicians as they grow older, and it's true for adults as well. And I can remember some cases with Jim Keogh of occupational lead exposure that turned out not to be occupational lead exposure, but adults with retained bullet fragments who can have really significant lead levels for a long time, but the risk to them of removing the bone of the lead fragment is frankly greater than the risk of the lead.
Yep.
And there's frankly not that much you can do about it, unfortunately, because you can't remove the bone, you can't remove the bullet fragments because of where they are or how small they are. And you can't really treat them effectively because it would mean essentially lifelong chelation. And there are risks associated with that.
In the adult lead registry at MDE, do we track this at all? It might be something to, I mean, I'd be really interested to look at that. And I do worry about our young people who may carry this for a long time. Dr. Janowski, please.
Yeah, another,
Oh, I know. I appreciate that. You. Yes, sir.
Another aspect of it is the people that eat what they hunt can be contaminated with lead also, so that eating venison that's been killed with lead shot can contaminate the meat, which can be fed to the family, and children can get exposed to lead that way. There's also environmental aspects to it. Scavenger birds that feed on a lead-killed carcass can also develop lead poisoning, which can affect their ability to reproduce. So there's concerns among the bird community as well that the use of lead is environmentally harmful beyond the human aspects of it.
So in our rural health outreach as well, we ought to be talking about the impact there on the hunting side for certain. Can we go through the final bills unless there's any comments in the room? If there are, and I can't see all the people all the way down, just shout out. Thank you. And there were, we'll do this after the legislation, introduce the people who arrived. We've got the 2 lead risk reduction in housing bills. Can we update quickly, please?
Sure. So on the single room tenant bill that passed successfully out of the Senate, it is just waiting for hearing over in the House, but so far there's been no opposition expressed for it. Again, that would cover, according to data from MDE, an estimated 37,500 units are not currently covered by the lead subtitle in Maryland. So we are very excited about that. We just need to get that onto a hearing schedule.
I want to pause and just say, for those who are tracking this, including Jeremy Baker for MDE, it passed out of the Senate. The House, 2 concerns that I have, just I'm going to say to the state, the lead poisoning prevention bills went to the Economic Matters Committee for the first time, not to the Environment Committee and not to the Health Committee. To me, I'm concerned that that was a lobbying move somehow. I can't, for the love of my brain function, figure out why kids' health is in front of economic matters versus primarily in front of the environment and health. And I'm asking the department to be able to report back why, for anything that they know from legislative services, why this went to that direction. Because other lead bills went to the Environment and Transportation committees, and this bill did not. But there is no guarantee without public input that these single units where people are living now in order to create opportunities for affordable housing for themselves, without this bill being pushed in front of the Economic Matters Committee, because they are not prioritizing, from my observation, this is an opinion, not providing enough emphasis or priority on these bills. And this is an opportunity to protect 37,000 families. I would respectfully ask the Baltimore City legislative group to look at this too and help us get this moving forward. I do believe the Maryland Department of the Environment submitted written testimony in support. I would ask the department to work a little harder to get out of DCM. And I did see a hand up, but it went down. Cliff, your hand was up and then went down?
Yeah, I was just going to say that in general, the departments don't have any influence on legislative decisions about where bills are assigned. That's a matter for the legislature. I don't think we know or could comment on where they decide to assign.
Well, I think the legislative offices can ask the speaker what the thinking was, and from past history, they can request it better. But We will also request it, but I think it's a question that is worth being asked by the public. It's worth being asked. And this is a new speaker, but it is breaking pretty dramatically to a committee that's primary function is not health. And that puts disadvantaged communities at a greater disadvantage. And I just want to be on the record for myself in that. And we, as GHHI, will ask the Speaker's office, but I am asking those state legislative offices at MDE if Mr. Baker can give us any insight, seeing as he came out of Adrian Jones's office previously. And he may give us none. All right, next bill.
Yeah, so unfortunately, so for the next bill, the modified risk reduction bill, that is likely not going to be moving forward this session. The latest intelligence, so for context for everyone, this received a hearing in both the House and the Senate. It did not get to a vote for committee in the House or the Senate, and so it did not pass before crossover. We tried reaching out through our sponsors to the chairs of the committees to see what the rationale was, and we don't have much information, but at least from the chair of environment or economic matters, that's Chair Valderrama, she's telling us now that, well, since it's past crossover, this is just not something that we're going to be focusing on at the committee since it hasn't received any favorable action from either chamber. That's the latest that we know, but yeah, so unfortunately at this point, it's probably not going to be moving forward this session.
Yeah, the thrust of the legislation was to restore the Maryland lead risk reduction and housing law to pre-19, to where we were all from 1996 until 2019, which is a tenant can file a notice of defect when there is an elevated blood level of their child, and the property owner is then compelled to go and do an inspection of the unit to see if there are any housing related issues that relate to the Maryland lead risk reduction and housing law. Just think chipping, peeling, flaking paint. And if there are, to repair that in a lead safe manner and pass inspection within a 30-day time frame. In 2019, the legislature created what I will state as a loophole, but they created a new pathway to allow owners to shirk their responsibility of that 30-day immediate response to the notice of defect and put the onus on the Maryland Department of the Environment to receive notice of EBL and then to proactively go out, inspect that unit and determine the source before the owner of that property does anything. And the problem with that is twofold, in my view, with all respect to the department. It puts an unfunded mandate on the department to do something that isn't specifically called out for additional funding to do. In my view, department can reply. But it also puts us at risk of a longer delay for the department to organize and get out to a family that the owner already has a relationship with and can act sooner. And doing so by testimony to the state, to the Maryland General Assembly, families have seen their children's lead levels rise while these delays go on. This is immoral. And it also failed under lobbying from property owner related lobbyists, specifically Robert Enton, who went in front of the legislature and effectively testified that it would cause property owners to be responsible for things that they would not be responsible for: spices, water, other sources. And so by having the loophole, it is being exacerbated by some owners. It is causing families delays. And so what I am asking of the Maryland Department of the Environment is for the next year, or until October, because that's when legislation has to be reintroduced, to examine records on this and produce a report that says how many children with elevated blood lead levels of 3.5 or higher was MDE able to inspect within 30 days? What are the barriers to getting that inspection done in 30 days? What is the cost to the state in that? And I'm going to ask everybody who's working like Riley in the legal services to also maintain a report of families, and would love the city help in this too. Families who are put at risk and whose kids' levels go up because of the loophole in the law. So I'm asking for that to inform the commission as to whether or not we should have stronger position, role, et cetera, in this. I also think that if we're going to maintain this, we will have to get the funding. I'm not saying the department hasn't asked me or talked to me about funding here, but we as a commission should ensure that if the onus is going to be solely on the Maryland Department of the Environment, then the Maryland Department of the Environment should be funded to act quickly. And I just think that kids are at risk, and I've watched children get poisoned and their lead levels rise because of this loophole. And our job, the commission's founding, is prevention of childhood lead poisoning. So, Riley?
Yes, a couple of things, Ruth Ann, just to add on to what you're saying. So first, for GHHI, we can certainly start tracking that information internally. Also, just to share information that we've learned as we've been responding to concerns and questions from other people on these and related topics for the bill. Based on the 2023 data from MDE, of the referrals that they received and local departments received in 2023 for environmental investigation, as a highlight, one of the biggest things that jumped out to us is that they were only able to, and for a lot of reasons that were outside their control, but they were only able to complete about half of the environmental investigation referrals that they were referred in the first place. And then otherwise, based off of the most recent data provided to Delegate Rosenberg, the typical turnaround for an environmental investigation when completed is 30 days. Now, especially in those situations where they're not able to complete an environmental investigation, that's where we've seen really significant harm to families as a result of what this bill is trying to address. So, for example, Jamila Preston, a mother who's been working with us recently, submitted testimony talking about how she tested positive, or her children tested positive back in July of last year. And because MDE, for whatever reason, has not been able to conduct an environmental investigation, her family has not been able to have their landlord address those issues even through this year. Now, we're helping to relocate her, so we are going to help her to get out of that and to help her family. But still, like, these are real harms that are being experienced by people.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much for Wes, Riley, and Fred on the legislative front. Susan Kleinhammer?
Good morning, and thank you, Ruth Ann. A couple of concerns that I have on that point is making sure that if you're asking the Maryland Department of the Environment to kind of keep data on that 30-day response, it should also include elevated blood level of children and owner occupied. And also, I also think it kind of tags along with the concern that has been raised in recent months about the invalidation of the Rodney Barkley 1,400 or so inspections as to where's the data on how many have been, we're leaving families in units with invalidated certificates that have not yet been addressed or brought back into compliance. And I think that that all falls into the same thing about owners or about leaving children at risk.
Okay. Yes. Separate from the bill, that is a separate request that is on the record for that you have made. But I will say this bill is about rental properties, and we have to find a different way on the owner occupied. Fair point. But this bill, just to remind folks, is on rental properties where owners are a part of the responsibility framework here. And I want to just close this to say owners had this obligation until 2019 and have been able to escape this obligation post 2019. Nadia, you'll be the last comment, I think, on this bill, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to just understand the historical context as to why this change was made in 2019. I wasn't part of the commission then, so I just would like some context there.
I will answer this, Riley. I got it. Thank you. In 2019, there was legislation to move the environmental investigation triggers to 3.5. It is unfortunate, but the owners were able to negotiate with the legislature that in order to move the ball to where the federal standard is, right, for environmental action, the threshold levels set by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, that the legislature took upon themselves to negotiate with the owners and give them this loophole. The whole point of that bill was to do what was right, which was to follow the CDC guidance, to go to 3.5, right? The city of Baltimore, for example, had proactively moved housing choice voucher programs for lead poisoned children to 3.5. The city was moving in that direction. This allowed the state to move in that direction. And as part of a legislative compromise, they added this amendment and passed it with this amendment. Not a wise move, I believe, but a legislative purview, and it was signed into law by Governor Hogan, who also had put in the universal blood lead testing, to his credit, right? But that is the background on that. We're going to move on, and I appreciate again. Okay, Susan Kleinhammer.
Yeah, thank you again, Ruth Ann. I just wanted to know if Fred, in defense of the Maryland Department of the Environment, in this specific case where MDE was not able to go out since July 2025, is there a reason for that? Maybe that MDE has to counter that claim?
Yeah, it was Baltimore City actually did the inspection in that in a timely manner. So as you know, we share responsibility of doing environmental investigations with Baltimore City, and they actually did the environmental investigation in a timely manner for that family.
Refusals.
Thank you, Fred.
There's been a lot of refusals at that lower level.
Yep. It's easier for the owner to get in.
Right, exactly.
Yep. All right. Thank you. And we are moving on. One thing I need to do, Wendy, we did not do, and I'm going to do two things. Allow the new folks who showed up to introduce themselves if they did not. And we do need to adopt the minutes I did skip that, and sorry about that. So young people at the end of the table.
Hi, Cynthia Herrera, serve as Senior Director of our Climate, Energy, and Equity work at Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, here for cross-learning on how climate-led issues are connected to future work that we do. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Faye Hansen, I am Outreach and Education Coordinator at Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, and I've been here before.
Hi everyone, Shadia Musa, Outreach and Education Manager with Green and Healthy Homes Initiative.
Great. So hi there, Ms. Holland from MDE. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good morning. I did not introduce myself at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm from the Office of the Secretary.
Well, you're working for a very fine individual, and we appreciate you 100%. I think we got the finest environment secretary in the country, so we're glad about that.
I agree. Thank you.
I see Miranda Salters also. Miranda, what do you do from MDE?
Yeah, hi, I'm Miranda, and I'm in the lead and drinking water division in the water supply program, and I am split between lead and drinking water in schools, which is the state regulation, as well as the federal lead and copper rule. Specifically, I'm working on the lead and copper rule improvements right now.
So Miranda, as you may know, GHHI filed an amicus brief in support of the lead and copper rule. But I would invite you to come back to the commission if you're not prepared to talk today. to give us an update on the activities on lead and water in the state next month, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we would love to know that. I think it's been a bit elusive sometimes around the state about what's happening. So I think you could add some really good context to that. Is there anybody else that we missed on introductions?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm ACRA City of Cambridge. I'm a program manager for the Healthy Homes and Lead Hazard Reduction program.
Great. And AC, when we come to updates, would love to hear how you're doing and good to see you. And Ivana Addison, please. And then if there's other, we need to move to the adoption of the minutes. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Devonna Addison. I work in the Lead Health and Surveillance Department, also known as LHS. I work in between LHS and enforcement.
Fantastic. Fred and Paula and Kevin, it would be great next month, not only to have Miranda give an update, but to just kind of reintroduce the lead program to the commission as we go into the summer. We go into Children's Environmental Health Month. And Cliff, same thing. If you and DHCD major departments, I think people need to know who to talk to when we're doing these things. It would be good for the public if we can do that. Did we have other hands up, Wendy, or should we go to the adoption of the minutes? Apologies for skipping that.
Yeah, you can go to the adoption.
Okay, for the commissioners, the minutes who are in front of you, if there are any amendations or notations, we have gotten some requests to correct names, which we've sent along on attendees. Dr. Mitchell.
Move to adopt the minutes.
Great. A second?
Sure, I'll second it.
There you go. Ally is seconding. Without any comment pending, may I get a vote in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any nays? Any abstentions? Minutes passed. Thank you very much, Wendy, for your great work on doing that. We are still trying to formulate how the committees will function. I have put in a summer student from Hopkins to help us get this up and moving and to support for the next year. The commission has additional support to MDE for staffing the commission and requests from the commission. So we will distribute the signups at the end of this meeting with requested chairs of those subcommittees. The chairs of those subcommittees may invite outside parties to be subject matter input into those committees. So it's not just limited to, I'll get to you 1 second, Cliff, not just limited to the commission members. We will leave it to the committee chairs to determine that. Dr. Mitchell.
Madam Chair, respectfully, I'm going to ask something now, which is going to cause a huge amount of pain to MDE and the Office of the Attorney General, but it probably would be helpful early on to clarify how exactly the committees will function with respect to the open meetings law. And I say this from personal experience because working groups of committees, of government commissions are funny beasts. And it probably would be helpful for all of us to understand how they operate with respect to the Open Meetings Act.
Could we not, Dr. Mitchell, just say that all meetings would be open?
There are a lot of nuances to the Open Meetings Act with respect to, for example, publishing agendas ahead of time, publishing minutes, etc. Which, and I apologize to MDE for this, but I think if we're really going to go in this direction, the chairs of the committees and working groups need to understand what their responsibilities are and are not with respect to the open meetings law.
Do you think maybe if we did a little research and maybe have,
Present it next month.
yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, let me just, I can make a referral to the AG's office on, you know, with your blessing, of course, to see if, you know, we can get, I think it's, you know, I think you're right. We probably need some more clarity.
Well, I think we can probably, I'll work with you, see if we can't get that by next meeting.
Okay.
I also want to bring next meeting just the standards, the ethics rules on commission, do a quick reminder on ethics rules of serving on the commission, on all the reporting, making sure everyone is clear on that as well. Very short, but yes, let's do that. We will continue to prepare this as we prepare for the open meetings law impact. This work does need to get done, and I'm going to encourage some of this work to get done over the summer. So I want to get prepared to do this. We did, by the way, skip something else, which is meeting schedule for the commission. Wendy, did you want to bring that up? I am still pushing the commission voluntarily to meet out in the public in June during Children's Environmental Health Month. We didn't do it for this Healthy Homes Month because it's actually it's during session. But I know Alvin would love to see us in Cambridge. There's other parts of the state that we might want to go to, reach into rural communities. But Wendy, did you have anything on the commission meeting schedule?
I think Fred wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had discussed about going to quarterly meetings. I was going to make a motion that we start setting a schedule for quarterly meetings. I know now we meet every other month. But yeah, I wanted to make a motion that we set quarterly meetings and that one of those meetings be in person.
Okay. Fred, can I amend your motion? And I'm not even sure I'll vote in favor or not, but to not have that happen in this fiscal year, but to start that in FY 27 or in starting in January of 27.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Comments on this? And the question is that would we have more content driven? We're pretty content driven at these meetings if you've been to them. It would mean less meetings for the public. I'm not sure what the law or statute requires, so I'd like to get some feedback from MDE on that. Have you looked into that?
I think it only has to happen.
Have we asked that question?
It is, I have to review it, but I'm pretty sure the statute says at least.
Minimum is quarterly.
Minimum is quarterly. Okay. Dr. Mitchell, on the commissions or others, the commissions you serve, how frequently do they meet?
It varies from no explicit requirement to a minimum of 6 meetings per year. It depends on the commission or the council.
Okay.
And it's either in statute or not.
Okay. Dr. Banks, I would request respectfully, we take this vote up in May. Once we know about the open meetings, constraints on any of the committee meetings, because if we're meeting quarterly, it gives the committees time to meet in the off months, et cetera. We can do this as a more planned package. I appreciate the thinking. What I'd also like to do is meet with MDE in the interim to have a little bit stronger standard agenda if we're going to go to quarterly meetings and bring that to the May meeting. We could do that, please.
Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Any objections to that? Any other comments on this proposal? Okay. You had a notation here on commissioner reappointments, and I will say I've talked to a few people on potential rejoining the commission in the past month, who are attending today as guests. But what did you have on that, Andy?
Yeah, I just, we have openings and just trying to remind people of, if they know of anybody to recommend, that would be great. We also have September, some terms that are expiring. So for those highlighted in yellow, Mangela, Adam, Susan,
Mangela's got going anywhere. I'm not gonna let her. I'm gonna lock her feet to the table.
I'll be sending out an email for you guys with a link to reapply because you need to be reappointed. And Christina, had you already sent yours in from last year?
I thought I filled out the form, but I haven't heard anything. So
You
I'm
haven't
not
heard
sure.
anything?
I haven't heard
Okay.
anything. So if you can, we can check on it or.
Yeah, I know usually after legislation because it's so hectic. But since we're coming up with first signing die in a couple weeks, I will double check on that and see if they have, well, when they can move forward on that. So
Does not go in front of the legislature. This is a commission that has no legislative input. This is a straight governor's office appointment to this commission. Just and thank you, Wendy, but we do want to fill these, especially we have child advocacy, we have the lead inspectors. I think we have a post 1949 property owner one. Is that right?
Yep.
And we have, and I know there's some coming up. If there's MD Maryland meeting the EPA lead standards, there's a question on the table on the agenda here. Fred or Paula?
Yeah. So,
Okay, go ahead, Fred.
So we were, as you know, the dust lead standards for EPA were lowered a couple years ago, went into effect as January 12th. MDE's history has been to couple those both with abatement and the risk reduction standard. We are going to proceed with that. We were kind of waiting until this modified risk reduction bill had some decision on it, so we're kind of past that now. So we're moving forward. We're putting those together now. So we're working with the AG's office to work on getting those sent to Annapolis as soon as possible. And there'll be some comments as well.
Can you remind folks, both commissioners and guests, we're going from where to where on dust standards and housing?
Hey, Kevin, can you update on us on that, if you don't mind?
Then, yay, you can say something here.
Yes. So our intention is to essentially mirror the EPA's the EPA's new requirements on hazard standards, so that essentially we would not be decoupling risk reduction from abatement clearance. And so to make it simple, because it can become confusing. Right now, our standards for lead contaminated dust in Maryland are essentially abatement standards. So 10 on the floor.
10 micrograms per deciliter.
On the floor.
Or not micrograms per square foot, sorry.
On the floor. 100 on the windowsill and 100 on the window well. So EPA's new standards, which are in effect today in a non-authorized state, are 5 micrograms on the floor and 25 micrograms on the windowsill, and then was it 40 on the window well? Yeah.
40.
So what we're proposing to do is couple that to the risk reduction standard to make it simple, right? So risk reduction standard in Maryland is what we're proposing to move forward, is to have that standard reflect that in risk reduction as well.
So we would have all of our standards uniform.
Correct. Now, what we would also be doing is during an environmental investigation, we would also be using that language, that new language that indicates any reportable level. And so labs across the country are already meeting these new standards. There's going to be some nuances in the language for the updates to COMAR that reflect that new standard for laboratories, for in-lab accredited laboratories. But that's the direction that we're going.
So the evidence is it's meetable.
The industry's already doing it.
Already there. Has the city of Baltimore adopted the standards? Do we know? Not yet. Not yet. Is there an intention to do so, or do you know plans on the city's intentions on it? You'll just follow the state, I guess?
We generally, yes, would follow the state, but we've not come to any conclusions internally about whether we would deviate.
Okay.
We're just hearing about what the state's plans right now.
Yeah, we hope we don't deviate, but yeah, that would be good. Ms. Kleinhammer?
Thank you. Kevin, just a question in the interim. First of all, when do you think COMA regulations will change? And in the interim, has any kind of communication occurred to owners of affected properties that they could have a lead hazard and yet still get a risk reduction standard certificate?
So I got this one. So just let me just back up a little bit, Ruth Ann. So what we did, and Kevin was a part of this when Delegate Rosenberg first asked this question in 2023. We looked at if property owners, if that standard was in effect now, how many properties would have passed? And we were well above the 70%. So we think that properties are still able to pass this. I think now we just ran this report. I guess it was a couple of days ago, Colby ran this report. He's in our accreditation oversight. We're up to about 83% of those properties would have passed. So we don't think it'll have a tremendous effect on properties owners' ability to pass their properties. Susan, can you repeat the question that you asked? I just wanted to make sure I got that in. Go ahead.
Thanks, Fred. So in the interim, until COMA regulations have been established to meet the new EPA standards for lead and dust, we have a predicament. Inspectors go out, do dust sampling. Now, the EPA new standards are already in effect.
Right.
But risk reduction certificates are still regulated by the existing dust standards that are in COMAR, which means a dust level less than 10 is required on the floor to get a risk reduction certificate, just to use the floor as an example. However, that less than 10 is greater than a reportable level, which a reportable level is anything greater than the lab's minimum detectable limit. So here's an example. A dust sample is taken from an affected property on the floor of a room. That floor sample from the lab comes back at 5 or at 6, let's say 6. That meets MDE standard right now. That does not meet EPA's new standard because it's a reportable level. Anything above the minimum detectable limit is a hazard. And so I don't think property owners are knowledgeable enough to know that even though they got a Maryland risk reduction certificate, they have to, under the EPA Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home, or the real estate disclosure, they have to disclose that as a hazard because it's detectable.
So to answer your question, we've been dealing with these calls as they come in, and we have been getting quite a few calls, especially after the 12th of January. And the answer is that you follow Maryland's law until we're able to change it.
Thank you.
All right.
Good answer.
Any other questions for me about the standard?
I think not. Any other questions here? Okay. I know we will commit to doing a lot of good education outreach on what people should know from their own residence, homes, etc. All right, folks, let's move to hot topics. If we can, make them hot, make them juicy, make them fun. Okay, MDE, what you got? Any other updates?
Fred, you got anything?
Yeah, I just got one quick update, and this is in conjunction. I want to thank Anastasia Solano, Dr. Mitchell, and Dr. Mitchell helped me. Charlotte Wallace from Anne Arundel County Health Department. We were able to join the multi-jurisdictional project for, and this kind of addresses those consumer items in lead. It's a big project. So they're creating this huge database where we're able to share information, share lead hazards across the country, and we hope that we're going to get a lot of data and a lot of access to establishing some protocols for how we deal with these consumer items that have high lead hazards. So, Dr. Mitchell, if I missed anything, just join in.
No, not at all, Fred. This is a project that is being operated out of New York City, called the Multi-Jurisdictional Repository. It started in New York City and now involves a number of other jurisdictions. And it is basically a database of testing of various consumer items to report lead levels. We are looking forward to working with MDE and the Multi-Jurisdictional Project. It's a database which I think will help everybody understand sort of the scope of what people are identifying in consumer products.
And what will the public receive out of this? Is there going to be a dashboard, some sort of enhanced educational efforts? What will be the?
So New York City already makes their results public. I can't speak for Maryland because that's a discussion, obviously, MDE and the Multi-Jurisdictional Project, and we have to have both internally and with the project is how these would get reported, but this is meant to be an open database.
Well, I will say, the more we can educate people, the safer they will be. So whatever we can from my organization, others here, I think it's really important. It doesn't, and we can also continue to collect the facts on where sources are coming from. Paint being the overwhelming one, but what other things are in our universe. So thank you for that. All right. Anything else, MDE? All right. Can I urge the secretary to do something, Ardina, while we have you, and that is potentially either work to have a proclamation on National Healthy Homes Month put out by the state or MDE, and we welcome work together coming in the fall for Lead Week, of course. But it would be great if social media from MDE would lift up National Healthy Homes Month for sure. Consideration there. MDH, Cliff?
I just wanted to recognize Susan Kleinhammer and Madam Chair.
Okay, is it related to the last topic from MDE, Susan?
Yes, it is. It's actually with the conversation with Cliff. This is great news with this, with multiple jurisdictions. I wondered if we already have information about the rate of the number of elevated blood lead level children in states or jurisdictions, Cliff, that don't have rules like risk reduction. I mean, are we as a jurisdiction, are we able to prevent more elevated blood lead levels because we have risk reduction? Or is it because of education that we actually are at about the same rate as jurisdictions that don't have the kind of rules that we have here? Thank you.
You answer that. We are so far ahead of most of the jurisdictions, Susan.
That's what I was going to say is
I mean,
we are somewhat unique in many respects. There are some states like Rhode Island, Massachusetts that have rules similar to ours, but both for rates of testing of children, and this is one of the big issues, is the denominator, that is to say how many children are at risk, in many states is totally unknown because they don't do population testing.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to answer that question, Susan, simply. We are relatively high in terms of the amount of testing that happens here. And with many states, what they do is they identify children who have very high lead levels, but they don't know what they don't know because a lot of children do not get tested.
In the other,
So it's a difficult question to answer.
I will also say Rhode Island is recently, in the last couple of years, adopted the Maryland law Fred Banks did a great job of being a liaison to help the state there adopt that. Massachusetts has long held very strict laws on lead, not as comprehensive, I would say, but Maryland outpaces, according to every federal agency's report on this, Maryland outpaces every state in the country on its reduction of lead, and I would contend greatly on the basis of the lead risk reduction in housing law. Going to MDH, Dr. Mitchell, did anything else?
I don't think we have anything super hot. I will say that we are continuing to work with GHHI on the resource guide, which is for me very exciting because I think it's nice to see a comprehensive listing of resources, and I think that's potentially very helpful. We are also continuing our work on evaluation of the home visiting program. And other than that, I would say we are, as is everybody, planning for after session, leaning into our work with our local health departments on a whole range of home visiting, lead case management, and other activities to do more focused prevention work.
AAP, Doctor?
Yeah, I mean, as a result of today's meeting, I'll contact the chapter leadership about putting things together for informational videos or mailings, et cetera, to the public about, lead testing for their kids, about pushing the information about parents being able to check the foods they're giving their infants and toddlers for heavy metal poisoning. I think we can help to increase education for that.
That would be great, and we appreciate that. I might even ask that you moderate our panel that's coming next month from the Rutgers Hopkins. Maybe we'll talk to you offline for their report. Mangela, any updates?
Yes, ma'am. No updates. That's really urgent as of now. Thank you.
We appreciate you. Is anyone here from the Insurance Administration?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. We will want to have them in future months as this new lead bill, I think, unfolds. We're going to need to have them at the table. Yes, ma'am. Paula?
Do we have a representative from?
I think we are in transition from retirement to a new.
Okay. Do we need to send a letter to them?
That is, I think, let's do that offline with
Okay.
Wendy as to what that department is doing.
Okay.
If that's okay. Is Nicola Tran here from DHCD? Anyone from?
I am sorry, I joined a little bit late at another meeting at the same time. I do want to provide an update that we're getting really close to finally getting a program manager for our lead program. So hopefully that will take off in the next couple of weeks. And then we also started working on lead campaign internally through our marketing department to revise outreach strategies and materials that we have and come up with a plan on how we're going to promote our programs. But I'm still interested too in a statewide coordinated outreach approach, and I'm not sure what we had all landed on how we're coordinating that and who would be able to take the lead and invest some time in that.
Yeah, Nicola, you'll get an invite from GHHI. We're going to convene all the comms people together. I think we're going to try to host a lunch for all of the comms people working on these things. If your agency has a comms team, you'll be getting invited to that. That we have coordinated strategies. And now that you've got your program manager and you're moving that forward, I think the time is now So look for that in the next week. We'll get a doodle poll going on that. If
Okay.
you can ensure that you let us know who the lead comms people are, R.A. Norton at ghhi.org. That'll be helpful to do that. Yep. And I want to say, Nicola, was in a couple of meetings this week where people were talking about how well DHCD is approaching a whole house approach. So I really want to thank you for that. And I know you're getting also a bunch of new money on clean energy coming to incorporate, and appreciate the governor's work on getting that moved forward. Dr. Mitchell.
Yeah, just Ruth Ann, in light of your earlier comments, I put a couple of events around National Public Health Week into the chat.
Okay, great. Let me hang on one second, Dr. Mitchell. Nicola, anything else from DHCD?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Mitchell, you want to just highlight what's in your chat there because we don't see the chat.
Yeah, these are just a couple of events happening at Cecil County on Thursday and on Saturday in Talbot County on events associated with community-focused events associated with National Public Health Week.
Well, I will maybe check out. I will be in Talbot County this weekend, so we'll see how that goes. I might stop by. Thank you for that. And for others, our friends from the City Health Department. From Fayette Street, or what street are you on?
We're actually on Redwood.
Redwood. Oh, you moved.
Yeah, we're the only ones from the health department that's actually in Redwood. But in January, I mentioned that we have partnered with iHeartRadio in regards to streaming and making people aware of point of care testing. So that is currently live and will be live for the next 8 weeks.
Fantastic. Can you share the link at some point with us so we could share it or whatever?
So
or is it just
iHeartRadio,
broadcasting
it's
live?
just like Pandora. It basically goes off your algorithm of what you listen to in education and things like that. But in regards to that, we have it streaming in certain zip codes based off of where we've seen a lot of our EBLs. So that is something that is currently taking place.
I didn't even know you could do that. Crazy. Oh, yeah.
And one last thing, we've been working with Young, Gifted, and Green and MedStar post our point of care testing tour, where we also seen a number of certain zip codes that had EBLs, just to provide education and awareness to providers and schools.
So you were doing canvassing or?
Not canvassing. So based off of the zip codes, what we did was our community health educator took a number of schools that was in the area and providers, went to the providers, passed out some pamphlets, education in regards to point of care testing, and was also allowed, we were putting posters in elementary schools in certain zip codes.
Okay. A question came up. We had a partnership meeting with Young, Gifted, and Green and some others the other day. A big question came up about the outstanding lead violation list. I don't know if that has been raised. But could the department come in May and just talk about what is the lead violation list that the city does have and is, I believe, still accessible to the public, which is a national best practice, and what people should interpret as they look at that outstanding lead violation list, because what has been really a concern, I think, that we hear is some of them being so very old and not getting adjudicated. And when you come in May to do that, we would appreciate being able to do it, is what are the efforts the city's looking to crosswalk those through a number of different things? Are any of them the Rodney Barkley that was asked, but is there a crosswalk with the Vicents program going on with the city? So are these now transferred over to the new grants that are being given to housing developers and rehab? Because this is going to be really important. Just because it's vacant doesn't mean it's a gut rehab when it gets brought back to life, number one. So secondly, GHHI is publishing a toolbox for the vacants program with support from JP Morgan Chase around what we should be looking at lead and other issues of upgrading electric, and all sorts of asthma and other impacts. But is there a crosswalk happening between the city health department and the vacants program to ensure that these new developers of property, redevelopment of these properties are getting trained at all or getting guidance from the city around lead hazards? I think it's an incredibly important opportunity because I think many of them are going to get done quickly and put on the market quickly. And we want to make sure that before they do, that they are cleared entirely for lead, whether or not they're rental. Something that we just to just pose and would love the partnership on that. Riley?
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Something else that would be great, possibly to follow up with DHCD with, something that we've observed anecdotally with our cases in court is that many tenants who have had violations issued against their property owners for failing to address issues on the property usually fail to test or look for lead hazards. And so in those cases, fortunately, those have been many instances where MDE or we have gone out and issued notices of defects. We've been able to cite those in court, but there have been several times where we've had to basically go against what the city inspector will say in court because they don't include those, or it seems that they're not including those as common as of late in their violation report. So that would also be appreciated if you're able to follow up with that and see what's going on there.
Yeah, I'm going to ask that discussion go offline and the commission will come back to you on the request. Okay. Christina?
And just making sure if Wendy's going to send out these links to highlight, because next week is the National Week of the Young Child for 2026, April 11th to 17th. And we want to make sure we're coordinating this because it's dedicated to recognize the importance of early childhood and the roles families, educators, and communities in supporting young children's development. And so each day we're giving away things and we want to send out more information for about this during that time.
Well, I so appreciate that. Wendy, also having Christina listed on the report outs would be so great for the future. Thank you, Christina, for that. And thank you for raising your hand on that. I don't think we have anyone else, any other questions in the room. Okay, we are going now. Baltimore Renters United. Anything to report out?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I actually have additional inquiry on behalf of Young, Gifted, and Green. Specifically, we had been reached out to by someone who did the lead kind of scratching test for their pipes and found out that their pipes they had lead pipes in their home. And they received conflicting information that they should have water filters, which we agree with, but that the city only had money for water filters for 1 year. They were not provided with any guidance on what to do after that 1 year of filters is up. They also had then received additional guidance that they should boil their water, and water that is found out to have metal contamination should not, or lead contamination should not be boiled. So we wanted to bring this to the attention of the Lead Commission, really deeply concerned about conflicting guidance that's being given out, but also would love to have a better understanding of what community members and homeowners should do after this 1 year mark if they still have not had their lead pipes replaced and they're out of filters. Also, I guess I can pause there, and then I also have a question about the extended state revolving funds.
So let me stop there. We have asked MDE to talk about its activities on water. We will reach out to Yolanda Winkler at the city. I think she's still the person, I don't know, who's doing the lead and water, to have her talk about the guidance that is provided by that department. Nadia, can I ask the question, was the guidance about boiling water, which is a big no, coming from Department of Public Works?
Yes, the guidance came from DPW. We also, from 311 requests, have received that people who call 311, so Baltimore City's 311 service, are told by folks on 311 if they have concerns to boil their water. I know that the 311 is not always directly DPW, but rather the 311 operators. So I did want to just flag that there might be conflicting evidence being given out in 311.
But we will report back on educational efforts to 311 and we'll invite DPW to come. Thank you for raising that. Also, I want to just say, Baltimore Renters United and others have been working on the Safer Homes Act in the city. The importance of that is ensuring that the city does not license for occupancy units for landlords who violate the Maryland Lead Risk Reduction in Housing Law. That's a tenet of licensure in the city that's being looked at by this act. The city council woman, Odette Ramos, is sponsoring. And so we will also in the try to put into the next meeting some better context and report on data about that happening. So for that city bill, because that's also other jurisdictions in the state that might be issuing occupancy permits, something to pay attention to. Yes.
Sorry, I have one last question. Also from Young, Gifted, and Green. And I know that we mentioned that we'll be talking about water next month, but I also wanted to know if MDE is planning to extend state revolving funds for drinking water.
Is Ms. Salters, is that something you can answer or?
I can get that information to you. I don't have an answer for that right
Okay. We will get an answer to that and circulate that to the commission. Thank you for your question. All right, and Green and Healthy Homes Initiative, I will turn to the team down here. Let's turn to the outreach team, and then Cynthia, if you want to talk about any efforts that you're doing where lead plays in or not, that's up to you, or Riley. So let's go there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ruth Ann. So I will try to be short for brevity, but as Cliff stated, we're working on a statewide healthy homes resource guide. It's very comprehensive, and as well as working with Ruth Ann, Bay, and some other states like DHCD. We believe this is going to be a really robust product and a really great resource for communities in Maryland. So we're also partnering with other state agencies as well to just ensure that all of our bases are covered. Additionally, we're continuing working on the lead mapping tool internally. So again, for those who are new here, it's going to be an interactive mapping tool that communities as well as local government agencies can click on a map and say, hey, this is a grant that's available. Here's a contract that's available. Here's a service that is available. So it's going to be super interactive, all focused in on lead. So really excited to partner with the Lead Commission Subcommittee on Community Engagement to get that up and running. Similarly, expanding on what Cliff stated on National Public Health Week. So it is April 6th through the 12th. JHHI will be doing our own kind of healthy homes tour. So we're partnering with Baltimore City community schools, namely with Dorothy I. Height, Hartford Heights, as well as our partnership with Judy Centers to kind of go around and do healthy homes presentations. And we're giving all families kind of these mini kits with all of our educational materials, microfiber towels, bag clips, jar grippers, all to focus on food safety and cleanliness. We're also doing the Asthma Summit on Thursday, May 21st at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, my alma mater.
Can I pause for just a second?
Absolutely.
So next month, May, is Asthma Awareness Week, but there's a link to register for the summit, right?
There is, yeah. So there's a link to register for the summit. It's going to be Thursday, May 21st at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. We're really excited. This is going to be in partnership with the City Health Department, as well as Baltimore County Health Department and Prince George's County Health Department. We're really excited because this year we're also going to be actually tying in some of our efforts with the climate team here at GHHI. We're going to do a workshop on induction stoves and the negative effects of gas, air quality, and how that affects asthma. So with that, I will send it over to Cynthia.
I yield my time.
The climate equity team, it was awarded an MEA grant on education for electrification. In that, I'm sure we will also be providing information on when you electrify, you have to take care of the lead problems. And there is a community advisory board who's partly doing education in that, but we will ensure all of our programs that we do when we are doing healthy housing work will also include lead. Anything to report from the courts?
Nothing too major other than what I said. I've already talked about policy, and otherwise, we're in court, we're representing people. We've been able to be very successful in just all the cases that we've had so far. So thank you, especially to MDE, when you're able to send up notices of defect, notices of non-compliance. They've been great to cite in court and introduce this evidence. So thank you.
Thank you. Other commissioner updates? Barring none, Wendy, are there public, is there public comment? I can't see the chat.
Yes, Patrick Connor, do you want to ask your, I think he's got, about 7 or 8 questions.
Thank
Patrick,
you.
are you there?
I am. Thank you very much. So I won't ask all because I think Commissioner Kleinhammer has spoken to and addressed some, but I would be curious if, clearly not today because of the time, but in a future meeting, if the housing professionals and the housing agencies can really speak to Susan Kleinhammer's question about action level versus reportable level and how your programs and maybe the property owners that you represent are disclosing dust lead hazards prior to reoccupancy or in fact new occupancy of families moving into or returning to affected properties with known dust lead hazards.
Patrick, I think we will respond to that in writing offline.
Okay.
Gather that answer. Also for Nicola and West Stewart and AC who are here and are running HUD programs, I'd love, if you all could get together, I'd love to have as part of the answer, what is HUD telling its grantees to do in that instance? Because I think that will be important because a lot of the housing cleanup and production on that, we can also ask Kat Taylor at DHCD to join that. Those are big things to happen. And that too, Jennifer and Brianna would be on the vacants issue as they come back. So it'd be good to get that answer. We'll do that in writing. Patrick, do you have other questions that were not addressed?
No, thank you, Chair. I'm good. I'm just really concerned about having families like all of you living in and moving in housing that have known dust lead hazards that will expose children. And we talk about it, but I'm not observing or even hearing any level of concern or interest or prevention, and let alone education. We talk about it, but I'm not hearing that we're educating about the difference of action level and reportable level. And reportable level is what will poison children. Not clearance, not action, reportable.
We will survey all the groups here and others and see who is providing that information and what the response is, because I think we're gonna have to survey a number of groups in order to find that out. We'll ask the state agencies to be prepared to also provide an answer on that from a state agency perspective. Wendy, do we have other comments, questions from other external parties?
Not that I've seen in the chat. I think
just one more call for any public comment. And if not, we will have a very busy May meeting. I am going to ask and encourage everybody who can to be in person in May, and I will personally provide the snacks, okay? We have Nakia Randall calling you and Ms. Kleinhammer, and then we will probably be bringing the meeting to close. Ms. Randall?
Good morning. I just wanted to give updates from Baltimore City's Lead Hazard Reduction Program. I don't know if I missed you, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. And you should be on this list, and I don't know why you're not, but we will make sure you are. Oh, you are. I'm sorry, I missed you.
No worries. We do currently have 2 active grants open, a 2024, which is $5.85 million for the next 5 years. And we're we have 41 units completed on that grant. We just got a grant and it started as of yesterday for the 2025. It's 4.1 million. And our goal is 100 units for that grant. We are in the process of finding contractors to bid. We do need new contractors. So I will put that information in the chat, and I'll also put our websites and social media information in the chat as well.
Okay, and we will be inviting your social media person to that meeting, communications meeting. So thank you for doing that, Wendy, if you would note that. And anyone on the commission who has, again, people they want in that meeting. Susan?
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Fred Banks for providing 7 of the environmental investigations provided or completed by the Maryland Department of the Environment. He did send that all out to us. And I was wondering, are we not going to have a chance? I mean, we do have 25 minutes left of time to discuss those environmental investigation reports.
I don't know that people are prepared to discuss them today, but we will put it on the May agenda.
I appreciate that. And would it be possible, I think a request had been made by me and perhaps others to have a couple of those same redacted environmental investigations from the Baltimore City Health Department, since most of the children in the city are more likely, have a higher incident of childhood lead poisoning in the city. It would be nice to have the same type of environmental investigations provided by the City Health Department. Thank you.
I would ask if you have that request, that I think it's most appropriate to put that in writing to the city.
I think it was already, I already provided it, and I think I asked for it, and it is in the minutes of last meeting.
Okay, but if you are requesting something of the city of Baltimore, I am asking you to request that directly of the city of Baltimore. If I can defer to MDE, whether MDE acted upon that to request that from the city.
If you could, yeah, I had asked, I know Camille Burke, I don't know if she's still on the meeting. Oh, thank you. I had asked her in an email, but if she's not the right person, can you, Ruth Ann, please provide me the person who I should be asking and provide an email address, please?
Well, I can't, but I will defer to Jennifer.
Yeah, that's I have sort of a procedural question for how the commission operates. Is this a formal request of the commission, and who do formal requests from the commission come from?
Undecided at this point, right? Ms. Kleinheimer has made this request to the department effectively. And again, what I am asking Susan is if you could put in writing to the city what.
Again, please, if you could provide me as to who that should, if you could just put it in the chat, the link or to an email that I may make that request, I'd appreciate that.
Wendy, could we, Susan, I think it's best that will be sent to you post-meeting, because we're asking people to give things.
Okay. It could just, yeah. Could I make a motion to see about asking the commission to formally request environmental investigation reports redacted from the city?
I don't think that's necessary, but you certainly may make.
I'd like to make that motion and see if somebody would second that for me.
Hearing no second, we're going to table that, and we're going to make efforts to have MDE, the city, and you talk about the request and ensure that we try to get as much as we can prior to the next meeting. I thank you. Nadia?
Yeah, I just have a quick question about the subcommittee assignments. I know that we'll talk about it a bit more, but just maybe like a pre-question. If we do the committee structure as we meet on the times where we don't have these full group meetings, does that mean that people can't be in multiple committees?
Well, that's a very good question and a logistics that let's talk through that. If you and I could talk offline about that, because I don't want to preclude people from being on multiple committees. I think we were offering that time as a possibility, but that's a really good question. And I don't have an answer for you today, but let's talk that through.
Okay, sounds good. I will follow up with you directly then, because I'm interested in being in 2 committees.
Okay, I had you on all 6, but that's okay. And appreciate the lean in. Did we have someone else? All right, going once, going twice. Happy April, and happy Passover, Easter, and all other holidays. We appreciate each of you. Thank you, MDE, for supporting this commission. And we will bring it to a close. Can I get a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. A second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
There you go. Thank you.
Aye.